we start off with Journey Reed. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Journey Reed. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, heard the stadium is supposed to be translucent and change from white during the day to burgundy at night. That sounds hard. I can't lie. Hashtag Mob Squad. That all of that sounds great until there's, first of all, can we find somewhere to build it? That's number one. Like, they could talk about the stadium could morph into a globe that engulfs the other team and automatically gives Washington a win. That's great, but where are we building it at? They still got to figure this stuff out. And to me, it doesn't make a ton of sense to build a new stadium if there hasn't been a decision made on Daniel Snyder. So that's the perfect segue. We'll come back to your comment, Journey Reed. Daniel Snyder, let's talk about it real quick. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because, again, you guys know how I feel about this. This is a non-issue until it's an issue. I've been saying what they just said the other day, that Daniel Snyder is on the hot seat and owners are counting votes now. They're getting to that point where, they weren't necessarily counting votes. They might have been rolling their eyes. They might have been sighing every time, but they weren't to the point where they were fed up and they were counting votes. Reportedly, that's where they are now. Look, I said this 2 years ago. I said it last year when we thought we had a chance to get his ass out of there, when the Washington Post article was supposed to come out. I've been talking about this for a long time. Okay, 2-3 years now. It's not going to be one incident with Daniel Snyder. There's no smoking gun. If there were, it would have already emerged and we would already be from underneath his reign of terror. There is no smoking gun, okay? There isn't one incident that's going to get this man removed as owner of the Washington Commanders. However, I've been saying this since, this has become a real thing. And that's, we're talking 2-3 years ago when this thing started to heat up a bit. The only way he's going to be pushed out as owner is if the other owners they become fatigued. Every year, and at some point, and I've been saying this, and this has been my rallying cry, at some point, because it's always something with this organization and specifically Daniel Snyder. It's always something. Every year at the NFL owners meeting, the annual meeting that they have in April, every year, and that's when Roger Goodell, and at the Super Bowl, Roger Goodell also has a state of the league, address, essentially, right? So he speaks for like 30 minutes to an hour about various topics, the direction of the league, things of that nature. Any hot button topics, when Brady had the whole Deflate Gate, he spoke about that. Anything that is pertinent to the league, Deshaun Watson was a topic of discussion this year, he speaks of. Every year, there's about a 15-minute segment of his briefing about Washington. Why? Because every year it's something new with them, and that gets old. First it was the name, okay. Then it was, and that's not in Snyder's control. That it was. He could have changed it, but he didn't want to, and then finally he did. Okay, so that was something that he had to always talk about. Okay. Then you get to the sexual misconduct and the improprieties that happened at the workplace. That was a sore eye on the league and something that they really didn't want to talk about, but they had to. They had an independent investigation that was a farce. It started out with Snyder hiring Beth Wilkinson. Then the league was like, that's not a good look. Maybe we should take over the investigation. Makes it look a little bit more legit. There are actually no papers. You have an investigation that takes a year to conduct and complete, yet there's actually no paperwork. There's no manifesto. There was like 500 pages to the Ted Wells Deflategate report, but there a year-long probe into an organization that has as much dirt and grime and filth in it as Washington, and there is no manifesto. There's no booklet. There's nothing. Yeah, right. So that was a joke, right? But still had to discuss that. you have these women who are like, you haven't done enough. You haven't done enough. You haven't done enough. We step forward. We put our necks out on the line. You haven't done enough. So they keep speaking out. Then you get the financial, accusations that they've been hiding money from the rest of the owners, and they've been, keeping. And if you're hiding money from the other owners, that means you're not sharing the money with the players in the league. And so that's an issue, from some of the stadium tickets that they've been selling and things of that nature. So that's a whole nother issue. And there's always something with this organization. All right. Always something. It was the cheerleading incident. They've had two separate cheerleading scandals, by the way. One that they had, back in the day, that was broken by the New York Times, and then or the New York Post, and then another one where they were reportedly, they had, photos of the cheerleaders that in like a cut up video made specifically for Dan Snyder when they were naked, and shots of them, and all kinds of inappropriate stuff. Like it's just always something with this organization. And at some point you just get tired. If you're Roger Goodell, your job is to defend, protect, and serve the owners. And you do as they ask you to do. And at some point, these owners, I know Goodell's like, look, you pay me an inordinate amount of money to just do my job. So if you want me to keep dodging questions about Daniel Snyder and keep talking around the issues and talking in circles, I can do that all day long. I've been doing it for the last decade plus. But at some point, if not me, and Goodell's on his last legs, remember, he said he's retiring after this contract runs out. The next guy's going to have to continue to answer questions about Washington, and Daniel Snyder in particular. And it's just a headache. You just get tired of doing this if you're an NFL owner. You're tired of answering Daniel Snyder questions. The Washington market is the most fertile and ripe for growth in the NFL, which sounds crazy because it's one of the largest media markets in the NFL. It's one of the largest media markets in sports. Okay, you kill to have the Washington market doing well, but they can never capitalize on that in the NFL because of the black cloud hanging over that organization that is named Daniel Snyder. So to me, it's not going to be one individual thing that gets this guy ousted. It's ultimately going to be them just growing fatigue of having to continue to talk about this guy, the black cloud that he brings over the league, the negativity that his organization continues to have on this league. And then again, we've talked about this. I don't know if there's any truth to the financial improprieties that we've heard about them, potentially having two separate books, one that shows that they're sharing the money properly with the league, and then the other books that apparently show them hoarding money and keeping it away from the other 31 owners. And again, if you're withholding money from the owners, you're withholding money from the players in the collective bargaining agreement. So they would be in violation of a lot. But one thing I've always learned in my lifetime is that rich people don't like having money kept from them, money that they feel like is theirs. One thing the rich love is being richer, and they don't play with their money. And so if there is any validity to Daniel Snyder, look, you can have all of these sexual misconduct allegations and all the stuff that I've talked about. That shit goes out the window. We're talking about money now. Your ass got to go. So they're getting to the point now where they're sick and tired of being sick and tired. Is it enough? I don't think so. I think there are a number of owners that are like, get his ass out of here. There might be 14 of them that feel that way. Well, you need 24 for his ass to be gone. I don't think you're getting 24. So anyway, I said all of that to say this. In regards to the stadium, I can't stand Daniel Snyder as an owner. I don't know him personally. Sounds like he's a piece of work. But he was stuck. He was hampered by Jack Kent Cooke wanting to get FedEx Field up before he died. He threw it together last minute. It felt rushed. It wasn't in a great location. It wasn't a well-built stadium. It was brand new in 96, and it felt like the 13th or 14th oldest stadium, and it was the newest stadium. It wasn't a well-built stadium in a good area, in a transient area. There was nothing good about the stadium, period, since its inception in 96. 96, 97, somewhere in that window. So one thing Snyder and company had against them when they bought the team was they had to inherit FedEx. It sucked. Why would you saddle a new owner if that is potentially something that you're pondering over as the rest of the owners in the league? Why would you saddle a new owner with a destination in a stadium that he doesn't love? Like, I just feel like if you're going to move on Snyder, do it pronto so that, because they're looking to break ground like that. The lease on the stadium that they're currently at runs out in 2027. Like, stadiums aren't built overnight. They need to be able to break ground on wherever they're going to build this stadium and start the process now, so we're not playing in the parking lot in 2027, in the 2028 season, waiting for the stadium to be finished. But I mean, I think that's something that has to go into the decision-making process. Is Daniel Snyder going to own the team? Right now, I just say, conduct business as usual. Daniel Snyder's the owner. He's not going anywhere. And as far as the stadium turning colors at night, that would be dope. As long as it's a dome and it can close and it's retractable, and it's not as big. I don't need 80,000 seats. He was being greedy. They put more seats in. They don't sell it out, and when it is remotely close to a sellout, is because 80% of the fans are from the opposite fan base. Need to make it more intimate. This should be a stadium that seats 65,000. It shouldn't seat 72 or 81 or anything crazy like that. This isn't Jerry's World. This should be a more intimate setting. And so we'll see what this stadium looks like. I mean, if some of the reports, and I've seen the photos that you're probably referring to in the little model, it looked dope. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was a nice looking stadium, but we'll see what happens. James Johnson, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Double J, writes, "What's up, Lou? What's up, James?" Says, "First time chatter." Haha. And I knew that. I don't recall seeing your name, but it's always refreshing when somebody finally comes from out of the shadows and speaks. Again, I am a notorious lurker, so I know the feeling. It's great talking to you, James. He says, "I want to know where you would rank us in the NFC conference. PS, smash that like button, y'all." So you want our draft or our team overall? Again, I've already given us a draft ranking. We are 7th in the draft in the conference. If you want to know where I feel like we are as a team, I mean, I'm looking at the teams right now, and we're not better than Green Bay, even though we could be, but they got Aaron Rodgers, so I'm going to show them the proper respect. We're not better than Tampa Bay. Depending on what Jameis Winston shows up, we're probably not better than New Orleans because their defense is legit. But they're kind of right where we are, because our defense could be just as good as theirs with the schedule that we play, and our quarterback could be just as good as theirs, if not better. So they're kind of on the same playing field as us. We're not better than Dallas right now or Philadelphia. Both of those teams made the playoffs, but I think we're better than Philadelphia because I think we got a better quarterback than them. But so for the sake of this argument, let's put Philly below us and Dallas ahead of us. So Green Bay, Tampa Bay, Dallas are all ahead of us. The Rams are ahead of us. The 49ers and the Seahawks, the 49ers and the Cardinals are ahead of us as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That will put us 7th. There's 7 teams that make it to the playoffs. That will put us 7th. We're in there somewhere, okay? Now, just because we're 7th doesn't mean we'll be the 7th seed. Anything can happen. We could win the division. We could be the first wild card. Anything could happen, but I got a 7th in the draft, and I got a 7th overall in the conference right now. And we could easily be 9. I don't think we're any worse than 9. New Orleans and Philadelphia could be ahead of us, but I have both of them right kind of where we are. So I'm going to give us the benefit of the doubt because I think our quarterback is better than both of their quarterbacks. So I got us at 7th. Jay Terry, I'll read this one and we'll move on. He says, just seen the notification from Bleacher Report about Terry and Commanders being far apart on his deal. Still shaking my head, pay that man. No worries. That's a part of the process. You know, when you're trying to strike a deal, it's Terry's camp's job to set the number ridiculously high. It's Washington's job to set the number ridiculously low. And when I say ridiculously low, for Washington, it's market, what they deem to be market value. This is what this player is getting. Terry's agent doesn't give a shit about what DJ Moore signed for, and him and Terry are kind of in that same, pocket. They don't give a shit about that. Terry's agent is like, look, F DJ Moore. Our guy means more to your organization than DJ Moore means to Carolina. Our guy has had to deal with worse quarterbacking, which isn't that far off because DJ Moore hasn't had great quarterbacking in Carolina either, but he's had to deal with worse quarterbacking here in Washington. He's had to deal with no supporting cast. DJ Moore's got another 1,000-yard receiver alongside him, in Robbie Anderson, who wasn't all that great last year, clearly. But the year before that, it was 2,000-yard receivers. And Curtis Samuel was there the year before. He was a 700-yard receiver and an all-purpose threat. So he's had supporting cast members. Terry has not. So his agent doesn't care anything about fair market value, this, that, and the third, what players are in that same vicinity. He's like, my dude deserves this. And it's Washington's job to say, all right, how about this? And it's his agent's job to counter with this. And eventually they will come to a number that makes sense for all parties involved. And trust me, that number will be reached. It might take a while. It might not happen until literally the eve of training camp, like it did with Jonathan Allen last year. It had to be every bit of maybe a day or two right before training camp. It was late in July, right? It'll be somewhere in that general vicinity. So,
LouieTeeNetwork.